The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the familiar hum of universal translators as representatives from dozens of species gathered for the monthly security briefing. Admiral Keth Ara, of the Veltar hegemony, stood at the central podium, her forearms gesturing gracefully as she addressed the assembly. Her crystalline skin caught the chamber's blue lighting, sending prismatic reflections across the curved walls. "The pirate raids in the Outer Rim continue to escalate," she announced, her melodic voice carrying easily through the vast space. "Our patrol fleets report 17 attacks this cycle alone. The Bloodfang Corsairs have grown bolder since acquiring those new stealth ships." Murmurs of concern rippled through the gathered delegates. The Zephyrians clicked their mandibles in agitation, while the gas-form ethereals swirled anxiously in their containment suits. At the far edge of the chamber, almost lost among the more impressive alien delegations, sat the human contingent. Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force shifted uncomfortably in her chair as several dozen eyes, stalks, and optical sensors turned toward her small group. Beside her, Commander James Rodriguez maintained his stoic expression, though she could see the tension in his jaw. The newest member of the Galactic Council, humanity had been granted only observer status after their recent discovery of faster-than-light travel. "Perhaps," came a silky voice from the Serpentine delegate, "our newest members would like to contribute to this discussion, though I suppose their vessels are still struggling to achieve adequate velocities." Laughter rippled through parts of the assembly. It was true that human ships were notoriously slow compared to the sleek vessels of the other species. While Veltar warships could reach speeds of nearly 50 times the speed of light, and even civilian Zephyrian transports managed 30 times light speed, the fastest human dreadnought barely achieved 15 times light speed. Captain Chen felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her voice level. "The Terran Defense Force stands ready to assist in any way the Council deems appropriate." "How generous," drawled Admiral Sixoth of the Predator Coalition, his reptilian features twisted in amusement. "Though I fear by the time your ships arrive at any conflict zone, the pirates will have died of old age." More laughter followed this comment, louder this time. Even some of the more diplomatic species couldn't suppress their amusement. The humans had been the subject of gentle mockery since joining the galactic community 6 months ago. Their technology was primitive, their ships were slow, and their weapons seemed almost quaint compared to the energy-based armaments of their new allies. Commander Rodriguez leaned forward slightly. "Our ships may not be the fastest, Admiral, but they've proven effective in our own conflicts." "Against other slow human ships, no doubt," Sixoth replied dismissively. "But space piracy requires swift response times. By all means, feel free to send your lumbering vessels to assist, but don't expect them to arrive before the battle is over." Admiral Kethara raised one of her hands for silence. "The Council appreciates all offers of assistance. However, given the urgent nature of these raids, we'll be deploying our rapid response fleets. The Veltar, 3rd Squadron, the Zephyrian Lightning Wings, and the Coalition's Strike Force Alpha will coordinate their efforts." She gestured to a holographic display that materialized above the chamber. It showed the Outer Rim territories, with red markers indicating recent pirate attacks. "Intelligence suggests the Bloodfang Corsairs are operating from a mobile base somewhere in the Torn Nebula. Our combined fleets will sweep the region and eliminate this threat." Captain Chen studied the display carefully. The Torn Nebula was a vast cloud of ionized gas and debris left over from an ancient supernova. Its electromagnetic properties made long-range sensors nearly useless and created unpredictable gravitational eddies that could trap unwary ships. "Admiral," she said, raising her hand, "the Terran Defense Force has experience operating in similar environments. Our ships might actually be better suited for this type of mission." The chamber fell silent for a moment before erupting in barely contained snickers. A Zephyrian delegate actually clicked its mandibles in what their species considered laughter. "My dear Captain," Admiral Kethara said with what might have been kindness in her crystalline voice, "I'm sure your people are quite capable in their own star system. But this requires precision and speed. The pirates use hit-and-run tactics. They strike fast and disappear even faster. Besides," added Admiral Sixoth with obvious relish, "your ships are so heavily armored they probably can't maneuver effectively in a debris field. All that primitive steel plating must make them handle like asteroids. Captain Chen bit back her immediate response. It was true that human ships were built differently from those of other species. Where alien vessels relied on energy shields and lightweight materials, human ships were constructed like flying fortresses. Layers of ablative armor, redundant systems, and what other species considered excessive structural reinforcement made them appear crude and ungainly. The Council's decision is final, Admiral Kethara announced. The operation will commence in 2 standard days. Captain Chen, perhaps your ships could patrol some of the less critical shipping lanes, while our forces handle the main threat. As the session concluded and delegates began filing out of the chamber, Captain Chen and Commander Rodriguez remained seated. Around them, conversations in dozens of languages discussed the upcoming operation. Most with the casual confidence of species that had never faced a serious military challenge. Sarah, Rodriguez said quietly. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? She nodded slowly. They have no idea what they're walking into. The torn nebula isn't just a hiding place, it's a trap. Those electromagnetic fields will disrupt their sensors, their shields, their FTL drives, and pirates who've survived in that environment will know how to use it against them. Captain Chen activated her personal communicator. This is Chen to Terran Command. Priority Alpha. We need to discuss the Outer Rim situation. The response came immediately. This is Admiral Morrison. Go ahead, Captain. Sir, the Galactic Council is planning a 3-fleet operation against pirates in the Torn Nebula. They've declined our offer to assist. I see. And your assessment? Chen glanced around to ensure no alien delegates were within earshot. They're flying into an ambush, sir. Their fast ships won't help them in that environment. They'll actually be a liability. The pirates will have defensive positions, prepared ambush sites. Understood. Captain, you are ordered to take the TDF Indomitable, Retribution, and Vengeance to the Outer Rim immediately. Official mission parameters. Patrol the shipping lanes as requested by the Council. And unofficial parameters. Sir, be ready to clean up the mess, Captain. Morrison out. As they left the Council chamber, Rodriguez shook his head. Think they'll figure out they need us before or after they get their shiny ships shot up? After, Chen replied grimly. Definitely after. 2 days later, the combined alien fleets departed for the Torn Nebula with great fanfare. Holographic news broadcasts showed the sleek Veltar cruisers, their crystalline hulls gleaming as they accelerated to maximum velocity. The Zephyrian ships looked like living things as they darted through space, their organic hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns. The Coalition vessels were predatory in design. All angles and weapon ports, moving with deadly grace. In contrast, the 3 human ships that followed at a more sedate pace looked like flying brick walls. The TDF, Indomitable, Chen's flagship, was a kilometer-long dreadnought that bristled with projectile weapons and armor plating. Beside it, the Retribution and Vengeance appeared equally imposing and equally slow. Tactical analysis of the alien fleet compositions. Mr. Rodriguez, Chen ordered, as they watched the other ships disappear into faster-than-light travel. All 3 fleets rely heavily on energy weapons and deflector shields, Rodriguez reported. Standard doctrine is to engage at maximum range with sustained energy bombardment, while maintaining high speed to avoid return fire. And their weakness? Energy weapons lose effectiveness in ionized environments. Their shields will be constantly drained by the electromagnetic interference in the nebula. And their high-speed maneuvering will be impossible in dense debris fields. Chen nodded. While our kinetic weapons are unaffected by electromagnetic interference, our armor doesn't rely on power to function, and our ships are designed to operate in hostile environments. It's almost like we built our fleet specifically to fight in places like the Torn Nebula, Rodriguez observed. Or places like the asteroid belts and radiation zones around Seoul, Chen replied. Funny how that works out. The journey to the Outer Rim took 3 days at human speeds. During that time, Chen received regular updates from Galactic Council communications. The alien fleets had reached the nebula and begun their sweep. Early reports were optimistic. Several pirate scouts had been detected and destroyed. Then the messages stopped coming. On the morning of the fourth day, as the human ships approached the edge of the torn nebula, they received an emergency transmission. The signal was weak and filled with static, but Admiral Kethara's voice was unmistakable. Any Council ships receiving this transmission? Under heavy attack. Shields failing. Trapped in the 7th sector. Request immediate assistance. Chen and Rodriguez exchanged glances on the bridge of the Indomitable. Around them, the bridge crew waited silently for orders. Navigation, plot a course for the 7th sector, Chen commanded. All ships, this is the Admiral. We're going in. Battle stations. As the 3 human ships entered the swirling chaos of the torn nebula, Captain Chen allowed herself a slight smile. Soon, the galaxy would learn why human ships were built the way they were, and perhaps they would understand that in the vast darkness of space, sometimes it wasn't about how fast you could run. Sometimes, it was about how hard you could hit back. The electromagnetic storms of the torn nebula crashed against the Indomitable's hull like waves against a seawall. But the human ship pressed forward steadily. Behind her, the Retribution and Vengeance maintained formation, their crews ready for whatever they would find in the depths of the cosmic maelstrom. In the distance, emergency beacons flickered weakly through the interference, marking the positions of crippled alien vessels. And somewhere, in the swirling chaos ahead, the Bloodfang Corsairs were learning what it meant to be trapped in close quarters with an enemy that had never needed to rely on speed to win their battles. The bridge of the TDF Indomitable hummed with controlled activity as the massive human warship pushed deeper into the torn nebula. Unlike the sleek alien vessels, the Indomitable had been designed to operate in the harshest environments imaginable. Her thick hull plating was scarred from countless operations in asteroid fields, radiation zones, and the debris-filled battlegrounds of human space. Contact bearing 27 Mark 5, Lieutenant Hayes reported from the sensor station. It's faint, but I'm reading Veltar energy signatures. They're not moving. Captain Chen leaned forward in her command chair. Through the bridge's reinforced viewports, she could see the churning chaos of the nebula. A swirling maelstrom of ionized gases, metallic debris, and electromagnetic storms that would have blinded most sensor arrays. The human ships, however, had been designed to fight in environments where sensors were useless, and visibility was measured in hundreds of meters, rather than thousands of kilometers. Range to contact? She asked. Approximately 15,000 kilometers, ma'am. The interference is making it difficult to get an exact reading. Chen nodded. In normal space, 15,000 kilometers would be point-blank range for a space battle. Here in the nebula, it might as well have been on the other side of the galaxy. The alien ships, accustomed to engaging targets at ranges measured in light minutes, would be fighting nearly blind. Navigation, take us in. Reduce speed to 1/4 impulse and switch to manual helm control. Ma'am? Lieutenant Commander Singh questioned from the helm. The young officer was used to the computer-assisted flying that most modern ships relied on. The gravitational eddies in this nebula will play havoc with our navigation computers, Chen explained. We need a human touch on the controls. As they moved closer, the wreckage of the first alien ship came into view. The Veltar cruiser hung motionless in space, her crystalline hull darkened and cracked. Atmosphere leaked from several breaches, forming tiny ice crystals that sparkled in the nebula's eerie light. Life signs? Rodriguez asked. Detecting approximately 60 survivors in the ship's core sections, Hayes reported. Their environmental systems are failing. Signal the Retribution to begin rescue operations, Chen ordered, and keep scanning for more survivors. Over the next hour, they found them scattered throughout the 7th sector like broken toys. Admiral Kethara's flagship, the Pride of Veltar, was drifting powerless with her entire command crew trapped in the bridge section. 2 Zephyrian lightning wings had collided while trying to maneuver in the dense debris field, their organic hulls ruptured and bleeding bioluminescent fluid into space. A coalition strike cruiser had been torn apart by what appeared to be sustained railgun fire. How many ships did they lose? Rodriguez asked grimly as rescue shuttles ferried survivors to the human vessels. Preliminary count shows 14 destroyed, 9 severely damaged, Hayes reported. Total casualties are estimated at over 3,000. Chen felt a cold anger building in her chest. These weren't soldiers who had died fighting against impossible odds. These were people who had walked into a trap because their leaders were too arrogant to listen to warning signs. "Admiral," came a weak transmission from the Pride of Veltar. "This is Admiral Keth Ara. I must thank you for your assistance." "Just doing our job, Admiral," Chen replied. "What happened out there?" There was a long pause before Keth Ara responded. "We entered the nebula expecting to find pirates hiding in the outer regions. Instead, we found a fully prepared fleet waiting for us in a defensive formation. They had turned the entire 7th sector into a killing ground. How many hostiles are we looking at?" "Our estimates suggest at least 40 ships, possibly more. They've been using the nebula as a base for months, maybe years. They know every gravitational eddy, every debris field, every hiding spot." Chen nodded. That explained how a ragtag bunch of pirates had managed to ambush 3 of the galaxy's most advanced fleets. "What's your tactical assessment?" "Our weapons were nearly useless in this environment. The electromagnetic interference drained our shields within minutes. Our energy weapons lost coherence at ranges greater than 5,000 kilometers. We couldn't maneuver effectively in the debris fields, and our targeting systems were compromised by the interference." "Where are the pirates now?" "They've withdrawn to prepared positions deeper in the nebula." "Admiral, with respect, I recommend we retreat and call for reinforcements. This environment favors their defensive tactics." Chen exchanged glances with Rodriguez. "The human ships were just getting warmed up. Admiral Kethara, we're going to need you to transfer operational command of this mission to the Terran Defense Force." The silence that followed stretched for nearly 30 seconds. When Kethara finally responded, her voice was carefully controlled. "Captain Chen, while I appreciate your offer, I cannot in good conscience send your ships against an enemy that has already proven capable of defeating much faster and more advanced vessels. With respect, Admiral, your ships are faster and more advanced for fighting in normal space." "This isn't normal space." "Captain, your ships are even slower than ours. The pirates will simply avoid you and strike when they choose." Chen smiled grimly. "Admiral, I don't think you understand how human ships are designed to fight. We don't chase our enemies. We make them come to us." Before Kethara could respond, proximity alarms began blaring throughout the human fleet. Hayes spun around from his sensor station, his face tight with concentration. "Contact! Multiple bogies incoming from the nebula's core. Count as 15, no 18 ships. They're moving fast and trying to flank us." "There," Chen said calmly. "They've just made their first mistake." The pirate fleet emerged from the swirling chaos like predators emerging from tall grass. Their ships were a motley collection of stolen vessels and converted freighters. But they moved with the coordination of a pack that had hunted together for years. Leading them was a massive battlecruiser that had once belonged to the Coalition, the infamous Bloodfang, flagship of the pirate armada. "They're trying to get between us and the nebula's edge," Rodriguez observed. "Classic pincer movement." "Why? Signal the fleet," Chen ordered. "Formation Omega. Full stop." "Ma'am?" Singh questioned. "We're just going to sit here?" "We're going to do what human ships do best, Lieutenant. We're going to be the immovable object." The 3 human ships arranged themselves in a triangular formation and simply stopped moving. To the alien observers watching from their rescue ships, it looked like the humans were surrendering or had suffered some kind of mechanical failure. The pirates clearly thought the same thing. Their ships accelerated toward the stationary human fleet, weapons charging for what they expected to be easy kills. "Range to lead elements?" Chen asked. 12,000 kilometers and closing fast, Hayes reported. "Still out of effective range for their energy weapons in this interference," Rodriguez noted, "but not out of range for ours. Gunnery, you are free to engage." What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for decades to come. The TDF Indomitable's main batteries opened fire with a sound that reverberated through her massive hull like thunder. Unlike the energy weapons favored by other species, human ships mounted kinetic weapons, railguns that fired solid projectiles at significant fractions of the speed of light. The electromagnetic interference that had rendered alien weapons nearly useless had no effect on chunks of depleted uranium traveling at 20% of light speed. The lead pirate ship simply ceased to exist as a dozen railgun rounds tore through its hull. The vessel didn't explode so much as disintegrate, its debris joining the nebula's chaotic mix of matter and energy. "Target destroyed," the gunnery officer reported with professional calm. The other pirate ships suddenly realized they weren't attacking crippled prey, they were charging straight into the maw of a predator that had been waiting for them. "Multiple incoming missiles," Hayes called out. "They're firing everything they have. Point defense systems. Engage," Chen ordered. The human ships bristled with defensive weaponry designed to stop exactly this kind of attack. Smaller railguns, laser point defense systems, and clouds of metallic chaff filled the space around the human fleet. The incoming missiles, already struggling with targeting locks due to the electromagnetic interference, were systematically destroyed long before they could reach their targets. "Return fire, all batteries," Chen commanded. The retribution and vengeance added their firepower to the Indomitables, and space lit up with the brilliant flashes of railgun rounds reaching their targets. 3 more pirate ships were destroyed in the opening exchange, their hulls no match for weapons designed to punch through asteroid-thick armor plating. "They're trying to close range," Rodriguez observed as the surviving pirates changed course, clearly hoping to get inside the effective range of the human guns. "Let them come," Chen replied. "Gunnery, switch to rapid-fire mode. Show them what close-range combat looks like." The pirates had made a fundamental error in tactics. They were used to fighting enemies who relied on speed and maneuverability, enemies who would try to avoid close combat. Human warships had been designed for a different kind of warfare entirely. As the range closed to 5,000 kilometers, the human ships revealed their true nature. They weren't just tough. They were floating arsenals. Secondary batteries that had been silent during the long-range engagement suddenly opened fire, filling space with streams of smaller projectiles. The pirates found themselves flying into what could only be described as a wall of metal. The Bloodfang herself, the massive battlecruiser that had terrorized the Outer Rim for years, made a desperate charge directly at the Indomitable. Her captain clearly believed that the larger pirate ship could overwhelm the human vessel in close combat. He was wrong. The Indomitable's forward batteries, guns that had been designed to crack open asteroid mining stations and destroy heavily fortified positions, spoke with a voice like the end of worlds. The Bloodfang's stolen coalition armor, impressive by most standards, might as well have been paper against weapons designed to destroy targets that were literally made of solid rock. The pirate flagship lasted exactly 17 seconds in close combat with the human dreadnought. "Hostile fleet is breaking off," Hayes reported, as the surviving pirates tried to flee back into the nebula's depths. "Pursuit course?" Singh asked. "Negative," Chen replied. "Let them go. They'll spread the word." As the battle ended and rescue operations resumed, Admiral Kethara's voice came over the communications array. Her tone was very different from the polite condescension of a few hours earlier. "Captain Chen, that was. How is such firepower possible?" Chen settled back in her command chair, watching as human rescue teams continued pulling survivors from the wreckage of the alien ships. "Admiral, when you grow up fighting in asteroid belts and debris fields, when your ships have to survive in radiation zones and gravitational anomalies, you build them differently. Our ships aren't fast because they don't need to be. They're built to take whatever you can throw at them and hit back twice as hard. Your weapons are designed to destroy targets that fight back with nuclear weapons and asteroid bombardments. Pirate ships, no matter how many they have, are just not in the same category." There was another long pause. When Kethara spoke again, her voice carried a note of something that might have been awe. "Captain, the Galactic Council owes humanity a significant debt. Without your intervention, without our intervention, you would have found another way to solve the problem," Chen replied diplomatically. "Though it might have taken a bit longer." As the human fleet began moving deeper into the nebula to hunt down the remaining pirates, Rodriguez leaned over to Chen. "Think they'll still make jokes about our slow ships?" Chen smiled as she watched the debris field that had once been the infamous Bloodfang drift past the bridge viewport. "Somehow, I doubt it." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 weeks after the Battle of the Torn Nebula as historians were already calling it. The same chamber that had witnessed gentle mockery of human capabilities now buzzed with very different conversations. Representatives huddled in small groups, speaking in hushed tones about weapon yields, armor specifications, and tactical doctrines that had proven devastatingly effective against enemies that had never faced anything like human warfare. Captain Sarah Chen, now bearing the temporary rank of admiral, walked through the chamber entrance to find every conversation stopping mid-sentence. Hundreds of eyes, sensors, and optical arrays turned toward her with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed fear. The human delegation, once relegated to the furthest corner of the chamber, now found themselves escorted to seats near the central podium seats that had been hastily added after it became clear that humanity's status in the galactic community had fundamentally changed. Admiral Kethara stood at the podium, but the confident bearing she had displayed weeks earlier was gone. Her crystalline features looked dimmed, and she moved with the careful precision of someone still recovering from injuries. Beside her, Admiral Sixoth of the Predator Coalition looked even worse. His reptilian form showed visible scarring from the burns he had received when his flagship's bridge was breached during the pirate ambush. The Council recognizes Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Force, Kethara announced, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. Chen stood and walked to the witness platform, noting how delegates unconsciously leaned back as she passed. It was subtle, but unmistakable, the body language of people who had suddenly realized they were in the presence of a predator they had mistaken for prey. Admiral Chen, Kethara began formally, the Council wishes to express its gratitude for your actions in the Torn Nebula. Your interventions saved the lives of over 2,000 personnel and eliminated a significant threat to galactic commerce. Thank you, Admiral. The Terran Defense Force was simply fulfilling its obligations as a member of the galactic community. The formal pleasantries concluded. Kethara gestured to the main display, which showed tactical recordings from the battle. The assembled delegates had already seen these recordings, but watching them again brought uncomfortable silence to the chamber. Admiral Chen, spoke a delegate from the Zephyrian Trade Confederation, her mandibles clicking nervously. The Council requests clarification regarding human military capabilities. The effectiveness of your weapons systems far exceeded our intelligence estimates. Chen nodded, having expected this question. Our weapons technology developed differently because of our unique circumstances. Earth's solar system is filled with asteroid belts, radiation zones, and other hazardous environments. Our ships and weapons were designed to operate effectively under conditions that would disable most other vessels. But the power output, pressed a Veltar representative. Our analysis suggests your main batteries generate more raw kinetic energy than our primary fusion reactors produce in total power. That's correct. Human warships carry dedicated reactor systems solely for weapons charging. We've found that, in combat, you can never have too much firepower. Admiral Sixoth leaned forward from his position at the podium. His voice was carefully controlled, but Chen could hear the underlying tension. Admiral, our intelligence indicates that the ships you brought to the nebula represent approximately 2% of the Terran Defense Force's total fleet strength. Is this accurate? Approximately. Yes. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. The 3 human ships had destroyed a pirate fleet that had successfully ambushed and defeated the combined forces of 3 major galactic powers. If those 3 ships represented just 2% of human military capacity, Admiral Chen, came a new voice from the delegation of the Ethereal Collective. What were your total military losses during the Nebula operation? Chen paused for a moment, then answered simply, we suffered no casualties and no significant damage to any vessel. The silence that followed was absolute. In a battle that had lasted several hours and involved the destruction of over 30 enemy ships, the humans had emerged completely unscathed. How is this possible? Demanded a representative from the Aquatic Alliance, his translated voice sharp with disbelief. Our ships are designed to absorb tremendous amounts of damage and continue fighting, Chen explained patiently. The pirate weapons, while dangerous to lightly armored vessels, were insufficient to penetrate our defensive systems. She activated her personal display device, showing technical specifications that made several delegates gasp audibly. The TDF Indomitable carries 3 meters of ablative armor over a structural framework that could withstand direct impact from a small asteroid. Her weapons systems are designed to function even if 70% of the ship's infrastructure is destroyed. This level of redundancy seems excessive, observed the Serpentine delegate, though his voice lacked its previous condescension. Perhaps by your standards, Chen agreed. But humans have learned that in combat, there is no such thing as excessive protection for your people and your ship. Admiral Kethara stepped forward, clearly steering the conversation toward its real purpose. Admiral Chen, the Council has been discussing humanity's role in galactic security. Given recent events, we believe it may be time to revise certain arrangements. Chen waited, knowing what was coming next. The Council formally requests that the Terran Defense Force accept full membership in the Galactic Defense Consortium, with all associated rights and responsibilities. This was the moment that would define humanity's place among the stars. Full membership meant equal status with the major galactic powers, access to their most advanced technologies, and a voice in decisions that affected billions of lives across hundreds of star systems. It also meant they would no longer be seen as the harmless newcomers who built slow ships. The Terran Defense Force accepts this honor, Chen replied formally. And we pledge to uphold the principles of peace and mutual defense that bind our species together. As the ceremonial words were spoken, and the formal document signed, Chen noticed the subtle changes in how delegates interacted with her. The casual dismissal was gone, replaced by careful politeness and something that might have been fear. When the Ethereal Collective's representative approached to discuss joint patrol schedules, his containment suit's movements were deferential rather than condescending. The Zephyrian Trade Confederation delegates, who had once barely acknowledged human presence, now actively sought her opinions on commerce protection strategies. The most telling moment came when Admiral Six Oth approached as the session was concluding. The proud Predator Coalition commander, whose species had built their entire culture around military supremacy, stood before Chen with something approaching humility. "Admiral," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology for my previous comments about your ship's capabilities." Quote, "No apology necessary, Admiral. You were working with incomplete information." Sixoth's reptilian features showed what might have been relief. "I have been authorized by the Coalition High Command to formally request joint training exercises between our fleets. We believe our forces could learn valuable lessons from human tactical doctrine." Chen nodded politely, though internally, she was amused. 3 weeks ago, these same coalition commanders had been making jokes about human ships being too slow to catch pirates. Now they wanted to learn from those same slow ships. "The Terran Defense Force would be honored to participate in joint exercises," she replied. "I think our crews would benefit from working together." As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Chen found herself walking beside Admiral Kethara. The Veltar commander had been quiet during most of the session, and Chen could sense she had something on her mind. "You knew, didn't you?" Kethara asked finally. "When we rejected your offer to help with the pirate situation, you knew what would happen." Chen considered her answer carefully. "We suspected that your fleets weren't equipped for combat in that environment. We hoped we were wrong. But you came anyway. You brought your ships into the nebula knowing that we might need rescue. That's what allies do, Admiral. They watch each other's backs." Kethara was quiet for a moment, then spoke again. "There are rumors circulating among the intelligence services. Stories about human conflicts during your species' development. Wars fought with weapons that make our most advanced armaments look primitive. Cities destroyed from orbit. Entire planets rendered uninhabitable." Chen's expression didn't change, but her voice carried a note of warning. "Those wars ended centuries ago, Admiral. Humanity learned from those conflicts and chose a different path, but the capability remains. The capability remains dormant. We prefer it that way." They reached the chamber exit, where Chen's security detail was waiting. As she prepared to leave, Kethara spoke one final time. "Admiral, I want you to know that the Council's decision to grant humanity full membership wasn't just about gratitude for your actions in the nebula. It was about recognition that a species capable of building weapons like yours deserves respect, not mockery. Chen smiled slightly. Admiral, the most dangerous predator is the one that everyone mistakes for harmless prey. Humanity learned that lesson a long time ago. 2 months later, Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the TDF Retribution, watching as a mixed fleet of human and alien ships conducted joint training exercises in the Kepler system. The sight would have been unimaginable just a few months earlier. Sleek Veltar cruisers flying in formation with massive human dreadnoughts, Zephyrian bioships learning human defensive tactics, coalition strike vessels practicing coordinated attacks with Terran destroyers. How did the cultural exchange program go? Chen asked as she joined him at the viewport. Better than expected, Rodriguez replied. The alien officers are adapting to our ship designs faster than our analysts predicted, though they're still having trouble with the concept of redundant backup systems for the backup systems. And our people? They're enjoying the advanced sensor packages and energy shields, though most of them still prefer good old-fashioned armor plating when things get serious. Chen nodded, watching as a Veltar lieutenant worked alongside a human chief engineer to calibrate a targeting system. The young alien officer showed none of the casual superiority that had characterized first contact between their species. If anything, she seemed eager to learn from the humans who had proven their effectiveness in the crucible of actual combat. Any word from the Outer Rim? Rodriguez asked. Piracy incidents have dropped by 90% since the Torn Nebula operation, Chen reported. Amazing how word travels when you completely annihilate a notorious pirate fleet. Think we'll have any more problems with underestimation? Chen smiled as she watched a human destroyer demonstrate its point defense capabilities to a group of fascinated Zephyrian observers. The exercise was supposed to simulate defending against missile attacks, but the human ship was systematically destroying every target drone deployed against it with almost casual efficiency. Somehow I doubt it, she said. Across the galaxy, in trading posts and military academies, in diplomatic lounges and merchant fleet briefing rooms, a new understanding was taking hold. The humans, once mocked for their slow ships and primitive technology, were now spoken of in very different terms. Their vessels were still slow by galactic standards, but speed no longer seemed relevant when discussing human military capabilities, because the galaxy had learned a fundamental truth about humanity. They didn't need to be fast to catch their enemies. They just needed to make sure that when their enemies came for them, nothing would be left of the attackers but debris and cautionary tales. And somewhere in the depths of space, in hidden bases and secret meetings, the remaining pirates and raiders and would-be conquerors looked at the tactical recordings from the Torn Nebula and quietly decided that perhaps there were easier targets than human space. After all, there was nothing quite as terrifying as discovering that the prey you had chosen was actually an apex predator in disguise.